You know, when it comes to microtransactions, Take-Two are pretty much considered one of the worst. Recently, they announced a new label, Private Division, and they're going to be publishing some smaller indie games. So, does the link to Take-Two mean that all these smaller indie games will have microtransactions in them as well? No.
Last week, Take-Two announced they had launched a new publishing label for indies called Private Division. According to Take-Two, Private Division will, quote, bring titles from top independent developers to market before making them critically and commercially successful on a global scale. Private Division have a pretty impressive roster of talent already, with quite a few high-profile developers all making games under the Private Division label. The current crop of games include Ancestors, the Humankind Odyssey, an adventure game from the creator of Assassin's Creed, Patrice Désilets, Project White, a Viking horror game from David Goldfarb and Ben Cousins, who are known for their work on the Battlefield series, but then there is also an untitled RPG from veterans Obsidian Entertainment, which is being led by Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, the original creators of Fallout.
Naturally, news of a new RPG from Obsidian got a bunch of fans excited, but the involvement of Take-Two led to fears of microtransactions being put in the game. After all, it wasn't too long ago that Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick announced they were looking at putting microtransactions in all their games going forward. Zelnick said Take-Two were looking to introduce, quote, recurrent consumer spending opportunities in all their future games. But in an effort to reassure fans that their game would remain free from the corruption, Obsidian published a blog post which declared that their new game will feature no microtransactions whatsoever. Quote, what we did want to talk about was a question a lot of you have been raising. Will this upcoming game feature any loot boxes or other microtransactions? The answer is simply no. No microtransactions of any kind in our game.
Obsidian were keen to point out that the partnership with Private Division had been nothing less than positive, and they had not been pressured to include any kind of microtransaction system in their game. They said Private Division has been incredibly supportive of their vision and have given the team complete creative freedom to make the game they want to make. Obsidian ended the blog post by calling Private Division fantastic partners.
I think this tells me that Take-Two appreciate that while they can probably get away with putting microtransactions in whatever they want, basically, in their big, like, guaranteed sellers like GTA and those AAA games that will reach a wider audience outside the gaming community, the same is not true for smaller independent games made by Obsidian, because they are generally played by the kind of people who are more engaged in the gaming community. They follow this kind of stuff a lot more, probably less tolerant of loot boxes, and microtransactions. Therefore, there's no point even considering it. I think that's what it tells me, and I'm glad that this has been ironed out here, because it's very cool for Obsidian to go, this isn't happening, don't worry, although it is kind of a bummer that they even have to do this at all.
So in business in general, a subsidiary company is normally a way of a business to try something different. If it was going to be exactly the same, they would have just hired them for Take-Two or something like that. So it doesn't mean that all the practices that Take-Two have got will seep into this. Now, Private Division is just one of the many like organic, free-range indie sort of projects taken on by all these AAA giants. Yeah, it seems that way. It's funny because EA have got like the EA Originals, which they've got A Way Out coming out on, made by the Brothers guy, and Ubisoft have got one as well. I can't remember the name of that, but the thing is that all these big companies have decided, like they're going to have these homegrown, grassroots sort of, it is a bit organic, hipster sort of gameplay mechanic things that, it seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment. And in that way, they can say, we're catering to everybody. If you like indie games, check out this fine selection.
It smells a little bit of them going like, well, you can't say we don't innovate, and you can't say we put microtransactions in all of our games, because look at Private Division. It's that kind of thing that is a bit more palatable, like PR-wise, for things like this, and they can basically look like less of an asshole by having a publisher like this who specialises in cool little games that don't do anything wrong and don't upset anyone, really. I mean, to think that Obsidian might put microtransactions in their game, when would that ever work anyway? When would that ever, there's no place for it there at all, and it's good that the people at the board, in the boardrooms and whatever, recognise that.
As for what the game could be, well, people still don't know. I mean, there's some speculation that it could be Fallout New Vegas 2, but then they've said it's going to be set in a new world, so it probably isn't that. It's definitely not going to be Pillars of Eternity 2, which is Obsidian, because that is being crowdfunded, so that can't be published, right? Who knows what it is, and if it's a model that would fit around microtransactions, it would surprise everybody. So it's good to see that they've just outright said no, and we've got loads of creative freedom, but all importantly, they've got all this money and this help if they need it, which is something that is only going to be good for the development of this mystery game.
Okay, so there's definitely not going to be any microtransactions in Obsidian's new RPG. Let us know what you think of this down below. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and please do subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every single day. You can check out that video right there, right now if you want, and there's a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. See you next time.